We don't care where you were drafted. You outperform somebody, you're going to be on that football field. Now, again, there are extenuating circumstances where he drafted quarterback number 3 overall. Yeah, they're going to try him out for the next 3 to 4 years, even if he's not as good as anybody on that roster. But from Shadur's perspective, that's probably the case. Tyler Huntley, Shador Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Deshaun Watson. There's a lot of names on that list, not a lot of good names on that list, so he can earn a job on this football team.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Every time he's there, he just finds a way, and he's going to break through. Look at Cameron Young. Cameron Young was one of those guys, too. Remember Cameron Young? Second in the Open Championship, fourth, plays great in majors, almost won the Canadian Open again. I seen this guy play live. I'm like, how does this guy not have a win? And then last week, Kev, you saw what he did. He put his foot on your throat, wrestling style. He didn't just win, he murdered the competition last week.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
He comes back, and what are we talking about? Mid-August at that point, and then he gets a couple more starts and they're ready for postseason. So right now, I would say probably not an issue long term. You know, obviously change the lines of what we're going to see today. I haven't seen the lines reopen, at least on the FanDuel Sportsbook. They're locked right now, so not an issue right now. As long as he comes back and he still has that plant leg and he's still strong with that, probably no worries for the Brewers right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Hour number 2 is now officially underway right here on the Early Line SportsGrid Network. Joe Ranieri, Donnie Rightside. The topics coming up in this hour for you. We're going to talk some golf. Yeah, we got big doings at the BMW, and Keith Stewart's going to join us in just a little bit. But we are going to continue talking about some NFL, but more importantly, Joe, afternoon Major League Baseball and also night baseball. A nice slate shaping up here for a Wednesday. And once again, the questions will come in. Will the Brewers or the Mariners ever lose another game again?
Probably so, Donnie. I think there's a good chance they might lose a game or two moving forward. But the reality is, are they going to have multiple 11-game losing streaks like they've had multiple 11-game or more winning streaks? Yeah, probably not. The Brewers are going absolutely nowhere. And in another week or so, they should get a couple of very young arms back and available to them as well.
You know, I always used to like, too, Major League Baseball, NFL teams going undefeated. Like WFAN's pretty big radio station in New York City where Mike Francesco would always get asked early in the season, hey, Mike, Joe from Sheepshead here. You think a baseball team could go undefeated for the season? And then he would actually try to answer them honestly, Joe. But I guess can a baseball team ever go undefeated for a whole season? Do you think we're ever going to see a buck 62-0?
I'd be willing to venture a guess. No, I don't think it might. But you never say never, Donnie, right? You never say never. But that might be as close to a lock of a bet that you will ever get, that there will be no team starting the season that is going to go 162-0.
Yep. By the way, Kevin Walsh, who hosts Game Time Decision on the network, he's a big Long Island guy growing up there, so probably listened to a lot of Mike Francesco growing up in his childhood memories here. But you know what else has some childhood memories for people that aren't that old? Yeah, the Steelers win every single year. Super Bowls? No. But they have a winning record. That's just what the Steelers and Mike Tomlin do. So let's have some fun here. Looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers, win total is 8.5. To miss the playoffs, it's plus 128. How about that? Make the playoffs is plus 128. Miss the playoffs is minus 158. You look at the AFC North, plus 480 if they want to win it. The AFC title listed at a 19-1. But we're not even going to get that in depth. Do you think the Steelers could win the Super Bowl or not? I'm just going to ask you a simple buy or sell question. The Steelers will have a winning record this season.
Oh, you have to buy this, Donnie. I don't see how we I mean, I don't see how we don't here. The Steelers have won double-digit games in each of the last 2 seasons, and yet they only led at halftime in less than half of those games, half of their games over the last 2 seasons. I mean, you got to be kidding me. This is a team with smoke and mirrors that somehow is winning double-digit games with no quarterback and horrific offensive production from guys, including an offensive coordinator that is just absolutely head-scratching here. The Steelers won 10 games last year, and they only led at halftime in 5 games. They did the same thing in 2023. How do you win 10 games and you have to come from behind in every one of them in order to be able to get there in more than half of them? I have absolutely no idea how they do it. I don't know if they're burning sage, but they have not been right since Roethlisberger left offensively, and yet they still manage to win games. They have no business winning. So I will buy it. Yes, they will have a winning season, and they will overperform, and the stats will be like, you got to be kidding me. That's the Steelers' way.
I'm always going to buy the Steelers winning seasons because that's what history tells us. That's what Mike Tomlin does. And there's enough talent on that football team to do that. But if we look at the components of the football team, the Steelers' calling card for as long as I can remember has always been the defensive footprint here. They're fabulous on the defensive line. They always have active linebackers. They went out and got Jalen Ramsey there from the Miami Dolphins in a trade. Joey Porter Jr. is an up-and-coming decent cornerback, and Darius Slay is one of those veterans that you can just plug and play. Decent secondary, decent linebackers, decent defensive line. It all makes sense. That's a defense that should be able to have enough talent to at least win more football games than you lose and maybe make the playoffs and make a run. But let's focus on the offense. Here's the worry. And if anybody watches, training camp practices or get the recaps, you saw the big bandage and ice come out for Aaron Rodgers on his leg yesterday. It wasn't a calf injury, which you would worry about, or an Achilles injury. He got stepped on, which does happen in football, I understand. I love DK Metcalf to that team. You know what I would love even more? George Pickens on the other side to sort of open things up and have a dynamic offense. Wilson's over there. Austin III's over there. Okay. Warren's in the backfield. I do think he's a pretty good upgrade from Najee Harris, a little bit more shiftier, speedier, with a chance to explode. But you know what the issue is here? What was always the issue with the New York Jets when Aaron Rodgers came there? Well, we got to try to rebuild this offensive line because we're going to get this old quarterback killed. Now you see like the clips of Aaron Rodgers. Hey, it looks like he needs a wheelchair in the backfield. That's not a good offensive line, and that's the worry. If Aaron Rodgers is upright for 17 games, yes, they're going to win at least 9 games. I really believe that. But that's the question. Can he stay upright? Because I look at that offensive line and say, he's going to get hit a lot this year, Joe, and that's a problem.
Well, I mean, listen, but the Steelers approach it, and this is the difference we talked Bengals, right, who can't surround Joe Burrow with a competent offensive line, and yet he still manages to win 10 games. The Steelers, however, understood what the issue was. So what did they do in the first round of the 23 and 24 draft? Yeah, they got offensive tackles, right? So this year, what they're going to have is their offensive line. They're going to have 3 players they drafted in 2024, and then they're going to have a player they drafted in 2023, and then they have 1 veteran lineman to round it out. So they understand that we have to build this offensive line from the scratch. And that's what they spent their draft doing. Go think about it, Donnie. They've actually drafted according to building from the center outwards to protect whoever may be the quarterback. What a novel idea. This is the kind of organization that you want to play for. That is why they overachieve when the stats say they shouldn't.
And also understand this, like we're talking about, like the key sometimes to have a winning season, Joe, is starting your season with good vibes, number one. You want to get Cam Hayward back in camp, but Watt got his money. Aaron Rodgers is there. It seems like there is some camaraderie that's taking place, which is what you want to see. But also understand this. Nobody like the Cincinnati Bengals enjoys more than opening the season 0-2, 0-3, 1-1. You want to have a good month of September because that buys you time. So, you know what? Let's start to believe now. Look at our record. We can do this. And the reason I say that is opening night is at the New York Jets. You should get a win just based on the talent alone between yourself and the Jets. Week number 2, it's the Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, it's Sam Darnold. It's a good football team, but where is it at, Joe? It's in your own building. You should win that game. The The Patriots game might be a little bit tougher on the road because they're an up-and-coming team, spent some money, new head coach. But theoretically, you're not supposed to get beat down by the New England Patriots. You can win that game. And then week number 4, who knows what we get out of J.J. McCarthy. But also, Joe, that game is at home for the Pittsburgh Steelers before that bye week, which then they come out and take on the Cleveland Browns. So if we just go, all right, win against the Jets, win against Seattle because it's home, give them a loss to the Patriots, give them a win for the Vikings, that's 3-1 at the bye week. And then the Browns at home, you should be 4-1. And if the Steelers start 4-1, Joe, ain't no way in hell they're going to have a losing record at that point.
Yes, but it gets progressively harder from them. I think the 9th hardest strength of schedule in the league is what they've got here, which is much different than what they had last year, Donnie, when they were facing the 16th hardest schedule of teams here. They've got not only the gauntlet that is the AFC North teams, but then they've got the Lions, Packers, Chargers, and Bills. They are going to have to figure it out offensively. You can't keep winning games because your defense gets 22 fumbles. You're going to have to win it in offense at some point, Donnie.
No, certainly sometimes you have to do that, but the Steelers, they should win more than they lose. It's just what they do. Let's talk to Keith Stewart next, our resident PGA expert right here on the grid.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Right back here on the early line, hour number 2. A lot of fun, a lot of hot topics, and none hotter right now. It's Donnie Rightside and it's Joe Ranieri. Let's bring in Keith Stewart, our resident PGA Tour expert and our PGA Pro, to give us a breakdown here of the BMW Championship. Keith, how are we feeling this morning in Baltimore?
DRS, you're just poking fun at me right now. The humidity level here is like 112%. It's 85 degrees at 9 in the morning. The balls are going to be flying down here because when the air is heavy, man, the guys can take it deep, and they'll need to on a par 70, 7,600-yard golf course.
$20 million purse. The boys are ready to go. And by the way, it's in Owings Mills, I'm saying. Short distance there, I'm assuming, from the Baltimore Ravens training complex. Maybe get a little action from Lamar Jackson and the boys. But we got bigger things to deal with here. Scotty Scheffler always comes up week to week here, the best golfer in the world. How many tournaments can he win? But everybody knows you like comfortability and you like to be used to things on a week-to-week basis that are the same. Some changes for Scotty Scheffler you want to fill us in on here, Keith Stewart.
Yeah, yesterday, Donnie, when I got to the property, first thing I did is I go to PDA Tour Communications, and I said, hey, does anyone know if Ted Scott's working this week? And they were like, you know what? We're going to check on that. They spoke with Scotty's agent, and they found out that Ted Scott is off for the week. Mike Cromie, who is usually the caddy for Chris Kirk, we all saw his story. He didn't birdie birth holes last week in Memphis in order to make it. He was number 51, top 50, make it to the BMW, so he had the week off. Scotty is having him fill in for Ted Scott for the week, which is interesting because that's your tournament favorite at a plus, right around plus 250. And, anything that upsets your camp just a little bit, it could be any reason to fade there, Joe Ranieri.
Yeah, it's I loved it. I thought they could not have had a better start with the way that it went on Sunday and then the extra holes. And you've got, 80-year-old Justin Rose. You've got the U.S. Open winner. It just, are we going to get that kind of feel again this week, do you think? Are we going to be surprised? And by the way, is Rory even there? Just asking.
Well, Joe, hey, first of all, go easy on the AARP crowd. All right, take it easy. You're down there in Florida. You're used to it. Now, first things first. You asked about Rory. I've seen Rory. Rory looks like he is in peak Rory form. He's in full flight. The driver just letting the shaft out. You got to love it, and that's important because I mentioned this in the opening there. Par 70, 7,600 yards. When we came here in 2021, everybody was complaining that Bryson and Patrick Cantley were 27 under par. They get in the playoff. There was 6 guys under 20 under par. The entire field of 69 players was under par. Well, they made some major changes. They've lengthened the golf course, and they removed 2 shots to par. They've taken 2 par 5s and made them into over 500-yard par 4s. So to get back to Rory, guys like that is who we're favoring. You want to get into Keith's keys, Donnie. Number one thing is you got to be able to let the shaft out. This is a big hitter's ballpark. The guys that can really drive it, Cam Young, Chris Gotterup, Rory for sure, Ludwig. These are the guys you're going to favor this week. I have a tough time seeing like that. That's not to say that Justin Rose and J.J. Spawn can't continue to play very, very well, but the driver is going to be such an advantage here. The second thing is the green complexes are perfect. They've redone them in 2023. They put sub-air systems in. They have them right where they want them. These things look absolutely spectacular, and the guys are going to make putts here. We saw it with Patrick and Bryson last time, and it's going to happen again. And the third thing is that I'm really looking for par 4 scoring. You have 12 par 4s here. 9 of the 12 are over 465 yards in length. So again, the driver, the putting, it's a driver putter fest, which is kind of cool, guys, because, about 6 weeks from now, about 5 weeks from now, we got a little bit of a contest coming to Bethpage Black. And the guys that are best with their driver and their putter would be the guys, if I was Captain Keegan, I would be picking. One heck of a preview this week.
Talking to Keith Stewart here, our resident PGA professional here, live on set, which we love to see down there. But also understand this, Keith. Sometimes you just turn on a football game, you know the stakes. Hey, win or lose, here's what happens. You can move on in the playoffs. For some of the people that don't know how the playoff structure actually works, what needs to happen this week for you to advance to the next round here on this PGA Championship?
We have the top 50 players here from the 2025 season on the FedEx Cup points list, right? We are going to cut that for next week to the top 30. You've got some names up there. A guy like Xander Schauffele has to have a really good week. Ricky Fowler has to have another good week in order to jump into that top 30 and get to that money grab down in Atlanta. So 20 guys are going to go home this week and get eliminated. It's exciting because, everyone kind of feels the tension when, of that moment. The thing is, everyone that's here is in the signature events next year, so they get in all of those. But next week is huge. If you make it to the Tour Championship, you get in all 4 majors. That's one of the, the big perks of getting to Atlanta, besides the cash. It really sets you up. And if you get to the Tour Championship, you get your card for another year. This is a big step. It is a huge goal for these guys. And if you're somebody like a Ben Griffin or Chris Gotterup or a Cam Young that that absolutely wants to be on that Ryder Cup team, you have got to make it to the next stage.
And let me ask you, Keith, because one guy I focused in on, he finally gets his first PGA Tour win, and he finishes top 5 last week in Memphis. And, oh, yeah, he led the field tee to green. Is Cameron Young the real deal? Could we see more of him this week?
It's funny. As you talk to players and caddies around Cameron Young, they absolutely want him on the Ryder Cup team. This kid was super talented. He was uber talented at Wake Forest. He came out here. It took him a little time to win, but sometimes that happens. It took Scotty 72 starts to win, but he's always been contending. And the point of the matter is this, boys, is that everybody knows this guy's got a ton of talent, and you're going to see it on display this week. He is an absolute stripe show off the tee, and he is uber long. What's really crazy about it is that a lot of those guys aren't the best putters, historically. He is rolling the rock and having a career season this year in doing so. And now we're up in the Northeast where he's from, and he's back on bent grass again. If you love that agronomy stuff, he's a huge fit this week.
How about some quick early leans on the early lines, Keith? Superstars are out there. Who's taking it down?
All right, Donnie, I'm going to the top of the board, and you're going to love this because he didn't play last week, but I love Rory at plus 800, right? The last time they played here in 2021, he finished 4th. Him with the driver here, with all of the dog legs, he can absolutely carry so many of the different cross bunkers. He is a huge – and guess what? You know what? Rory loves the fact that we have Bethpage coming. I'm sure this European team, with all the talk about the Americans, would love to send a message, right? Justin Rose did it last week. You know that they're talking to one another. They want to do it again this week. And the second guy is Hideki Matsuyama. Almost led the field in approach out there in Memphis, plus 4,000. There's a bomb for you that can win.
Love it. He's Keith Stewart, live from the BMW Championship. We'll be right back.
Odds makers, maybe bettors as well, want Seattle. They are buying Seattle in droves because it is the Seattle Mariners who are in front of the Houston Astros in the World Series market. It's the Seattle Mariners who now find themselves tied for the 3rd best odds to win the World Series.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Jalen Lane, 4th round receiver from Virginia Tech, who's a dynamic slot receiver. Run after the catch. He's had a phenomenal camp. Really great offseason. He is really gifted. And obviously with McLaurin not practicing, he's getting a lot more of a look.
Right.
Now, the problem is, without McLaurin, they're not very deep at the outside receiver position. But Jalen Lane is a stud talent. I'm telling you, this kid should have gone higher.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
He's going to regress a little potentially in touchdowns, but his role's not going to change. There's no other superstar on this team besides Josh Allen. So to me, James Cook, they need James Cook if the Buffalo Bills are going to repeat in that division again. They need him to be that guy in the offense because there isn't another star around Josh Allen. So James Cook is as close as it gets. I'm sorry. It's not Khalil Shakir. It doesn't look like it's ever going to be Keon Coleman or Dalton Kincaid.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
I think we will start to see that 4, 5, 6 type of range. I don't see him falling at 2 or 3. If we lose, it's going to be losing by the hook, but we're going for plus money today on 2 different props. We should be in a good spot.
I like it, man. I like it. How about this? Like, sometimes I just look at numbers and say, this number doesn't make any sense. Let me do some math on why I should be betting or at least going contrarian on a certain prop bet today.
Pro Baseball Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Stories have been so hot right now, Joe Ranieri, that sometimes we have to push things back a couple segments or so. But don't worry, people. We always like to reach out and let us understand what you are thinking with a question that we have. So, Joe Ranieri, without much more further waiting here, let's get to the Fade the Public. Fade them, Joe. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong, but we always want that opinion. And how do you get this poll? How do you answer this question? Easy. Go to our X account, SportsGrid, at SportsGrid on X. The question was asked today, Joe. Simple. Which team is a better bet to win the World Series? We gave you two options. No, it's not the Phillies. No, it's not the Yankees. No, it's not the Dodgers. We actually went a little bit down farther to teams that are playing good baseball, closing the gap on their first place teams, and or possibly taking them over. Those two teams, the Seattle Mariners at a plus 950 price, the San Diego Padres at a 13-1 price. Do you know what the vote split is right now live? It's 50-50 between the Mariners and the Padres, Joe. How about that? Oof.
Wow, that is close here. And, feels like both of those teams are built very similar, right? They've got good starting pitching. They've got pretty good back end of the bullpen. They've got some guys that can hit for power. That would be an interesting series if it came down to for that being a world championship in the World Series, Donnie. But I believe it's a coin flip, because if they played one another in a 7-game series, I believe that price would be a coin flip as well. But I'd have to lean towards the Padres here. I think this is a team that if they can overcome the Dodgers and finally get past that hurdle, I like their chances more than Seattle.
I'm telling you, you looked at these price points too, because you know me, Joe. I like the Mariners out there on the West Coast here. I like them in the American League. I think they can do some damage. And no team that I got more impressed with over the last month, not because of what they were doing on the baseball field, but how they handled the trade deadline and really fortified their team. That's the San Diego Padres. So it was simple to me. I like the Mariners. I like the Padres. But my vote, like my tie-breaking vote for myself, was the price point alone. Like the Mariners are plus 950. That's an awesome price. But the Padres, who I think equally as talented as the Mariners with a chance to go deep in the National League, that was a 13-1 price. That's what got my vote. If roles were reversed, Joe, and we had the Padres at 950 and the Mariners at 13-1, I actually would have went with the Mariners. So for me, like both teams, I just took the longer price point here.
Yeah, and that's at that point, Donnie, if we're truly talking 50-50, take the extra money, because at that point, I don't think there's a clear-cut winner. I think experience, and it's going to be hard for the Padres because it's the Dodgers they got to get past. But if they do, I think the sky is the limit here for the Padres to get it done finally.
By the way, I'm looking in the notes right here, and we have a first-time winner market, which I assume is for the World Series, like teams that haven't won it before. Like it's the Rockies, Brewers, Padres, Mariners, or Rays for plus 320, or the field for minus 430. But like, why would the Rockies be included in there though? Like you just get them thrown in, even though they're already like eliminated. Like why would they even be in that point? Or is this like for you? Like they hold your money for years? Is this like for the rest of like eternity? Like one of these? Like what am I missing here?
Yeah, that's right? First, that's almost the same question, though, right? Who's got a better chance of winning their first, who's going to be the next new team to win a World Series for the first time? It's definitely not going to be Colorado in my book in any way, shape, or form anytime soon.
Yeah, looking at some of those like division prices too, because when you talk about like the Seattle Mariners out on the West Coast, they're tied now with the Houston Astros, but they are a favorite, Joe, at a minus 130 price to win that division. The Houston Astros now at a plus 105. But if we do take a look at the San Diego Padres, which we're going to notice this on a day-to-day basis, like neck and neck with the Dodgers. They're not neck and neck in price points here, Joe. The Dodgers are still minus 310 going like, we don't care if you go up 5 games. And the joke I made yesterday was, I actually think like the Padres can win this division and the Dodgers would still be the favorite somehow to win the division, even though they can't win the division.
And it's kind of crazy when you think about it too, because I believe now that they are tied at top of the division here after last night, I think this is the first time we've seen the Padres this late in the season in first place. And I don't think it's happened since 2010. Donnie, that's the last time we've seen the Padres at this point in first place.
I'm telling you, man, they have a team that can win a World Series with that bullpen. We'll see if it certainly sticks up. But let's get to some Major League Baseball handicapping next.
odds makers, maybe bettors as well, want Seattle. They are buying Seattle in droves because it is the Seattle Mariners who are in front of the Houston Astros in the World Series market. It's the Seattle Mariners who now find themselves tied for the third best odds to win the World Series.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Jalen Lane, fourth-round receiver from Virginia Tech, who's a dynamic slot receiver. Run after the catch. He's had a phenomenal camp. Really great offseason. He is really gifted. And obviously with McLaurin not practicing, he's getting a lot more of a look.
Right.
Now, the problem is, without McLaurin, they're not very deep at the outside receiver position. But Jalen Lane is a stud talent. I'm telling you, this kid should have gone higher.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
He's going to regress a little potentially in touchdowns, but his role's not going to change. There's no other superstar on this team besides Josh Allen. So to me, James Cook, they need James Cook if the Buffalo Bills are going to repeat in that division again. They need him to be that guy in the offense because there isn't another star around Josh Allen. So James Cook is as close as it gets. I'm sorry. It's not Khalil Shakir. It doesn't look like it's ever going to be Keon Coleman or Dalton Kincaid.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
I think we will start to see that 4, 5, 6 type of range. I don't see him falling at 2 or 3. If we lose, it's going to be losing by the hook, but we're going for plus money today on 2 different props. We should be in a good spot.
I like it, man. I like it. How about this? Like, sometimes I just look at numbers and say, this number doesn't make any sense. Let me do some math on why I should be betting or at least going contrarian on a certain prop bet today.
Pro Baseball Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Right back at it here on the early line. Always so much fun. I love Major League Baseball. It's the dog days of summer here. And today, Joe, we're going streaking in the quad. Well, not necessarily, but we are still streaking with the Milwaukee Brewers. Can they extend their win streak once again today? They faced Paul Skeens yesterday, Joe. They beat Paul Skeens and the Pirates 14-0. Ain't no stopping us now. We're going to continue to sing that song here, trying for number 12 in a row. The Pittsburgh Pirates are still in town. It's Mitch Keller on the mound going up against Brandon Woodruff here for the Brewers. 9:51, 9:52 on the rotation. A 2:10 start. Afternoon baseball action. Overnight, this line opened up at a minus 198 price. Currently sitting live right now, 205s, 219s, 235s. Heavy favorite for the Milwaukee Brewers. Woodruff versus Keller, a 7.5 total today, which we saw crushed yesterday just by the Brewers alone. How do we feel about today, Joe? Is number 12 on deck? The odds makers, they're telling you it's almost a formality, it feels like.
Well, the problem with Brandon Woodruff is, they've already won all 6 of his starts since he came off the IL, right? I mean, we know it's been, he came off having surgery, hadn't pitched in over a year, and then, of course, he picks up right from where he left off. And I said this stat last week, Donnie, and it bears repeating, that this isn't anything new with the Brewers. With Brandon Woodruff dating back to 2022, when he starts games, they are now 19-3 in those starts when he pitches. And he took a year off, by the way. So this is a guy that this team backs. He keeps them in games. He is pitching better than what he was prior. I mean, Mitch Keller's won his last 4 starts, but he's allowed 11 runs over his last 3 starts, where the Brewers, they don't give up a ton of runs, especially against this Pirates team. They've beaten the Pirates the last 4 games by 2 or more runs, Donnie. I don't run to the window to lay a 1.5 with home teams since they only bat 8 times. But my goodness, how are we not laying the 1.5 here in Blowout City?
Exactly. You're just sometimes riding those streaks out, and the Brewers have been that good at this point. And you figure like their losing streak possibly could have came to an end against Paul Skeens. It didn't. If you look at the pitching matchup today on the mound, Brandon Woodruff here has a 72 xFIP minus over the past 60 days, a 2.29 ERA, and a 2.91 xFIP number. Now, granted, he hasn't been pitching all the way through. Those are just some of the statistics showing up. But if we slide it down to Mitch Keller, I have him 20th on the card, a 110 xFIP minus number, an okay ERA of 3.42, but a higher xFIP of 4.50. The question is, like, is anybody just stepping in front? Because there will be, hey, I'm just going to play contrarian, and sooner than later they have to lose. They are a heavy favorite today, but nothing shows them slowing down. It should have been yesterday, and they put up 2 touchdowns in a game that Paul Skeens started, which is absolutely incredible. Let's head back out to the West Coast. You saw last night the Los Angeles Angels walked off the Los Angeles Dodgers, but today Shohei Ohtani and Showtime returns back to the billing here. 979, 980 on the rotation. Shohei Ohtani is going to get the start for the Dodgers, going up against Kyle Hendricks. That's a 938 start tonight. The total in this game, Joe, between 9s to 9.5, depending where you're shopping. But just as we talked about the Milwaukee Brewers, a heavy favorite here for the Dodgers at a minus 210 to minus 215 price, depending on where you're shopping at. Ohtani back on the mound hasn't necessarily equated to victories when he's been out there, but we'll see what happens tonight as a heavy favorite in Anaheim.
Yeah, I would anticipate that the Dodgers bats are going to get to Kyle Hendricks early and often in this one here. I would also, we saw length from Ohtani, right? They had said, listen, we're going to start pushing him and stretching him out here. He went, 4 innings, I believe, last start there, Donnie, last week when we talked about it. I think they're going to keep going down that path. But ultimately, love the matchup for this Dodgers lineup to bounce back. I would lay the half a run in the first 5, Donnie. I think the Dodgers get to Kyle Hendricks way before the Angels get to Ohtani in the first 5 innings. So I'd lay the half a run and back the Dodgers early.
Yeah, take a look at that Dodgers lineup tonight heading into this game last 30 days against right-handed pitching. It does match up really well. Shohei Ohtani, great numbers. Freddie Freeman, Will Smith, Max Muncy, Tasker Hernandez, as well as Andy Pajes in that lineup can do some damage. And you're right, 77-degree temperatures tonight in Anaheim. A bounce-back spot's pretty good. And also understand this, like Ohtani, since he's been back on the mound, his xFIP minus is a 67. That's awesome, a 2.37 ERA. The guy strikes out a lot of hitters. His xFIP number at a 2.69. There's a lot to like here, and also you're right. Kyle Hendricks, Tyler Anderson, there's so many pitchers. Jose Quintana, don't throw hard, can sort of frustrate you here. Very good against left-handed bats. But the Dodgers, again, as I told you, have had a lot of success against righties. Is it just one of those where, Joe, if you had to bet the game, look, we don't know how long Ohtani is going to go. Let's call it 4 innings. So it's like, okay, the bullpen's going to come in, and you've always said, you worry about the Dodgers bullpen down the stretch. I figure if the Dodgers win this game, Joe, it's not going to be 2-1. And the Dodgers could lose this game like they did in extras, but if they get 5 runs, you're going to hit that team total. Like, for me, I'd be actually more comfortable saying I'll lay the minus 110 price on their team total as opposed to a minus 200 for the game itself and just say, hey, you know what? If you hit and they hit, at least I still win my bet anyway.
It's a great way to look at it, Donnie, because let's face it, I think runs are coming in this game for the Dodgers. And why not? The bats have been picking it up for him. Unfortunately, it's that bullpen we got to worry about.
It is that bullpen you got to worry about. Nothing's worse than, hey, man, we got a 3-1 lead in the 8th inning. Oh, no, we lost 4-3 because our bullpen gave it away. Tough times for bettors where you get that money snatched right out of your back pocket. Let's get to Cincinnati. And if you thought the Phillies win streak would continue, you were wrong. The Phillies did not play well yesterday, got beat 6-1 by the Cincinnati Reds, but new day, new money, as we like to say. This is a 5-10 start in Cincinnati. 957, 958 on the rotation. Christopher Sanchez, one of the better pitchers in baseball, the lefties on the mound for the Phillies, and Hunter Green makes his return back to the mound for the Reds for the trying to make a playoff push. The total in this game, which opened up at 8.5, still sits at 8.5 today. The favorite, the Philadelphia Phillies overnight, Joe, around a minus 135. Those numbers are higher at just about every outlet. 142, 143, 145s in the marketplace. Christopher Sanchez versus Hunter Green today in Cincinnati. What are we thinking?
Well, Hunter Green hasn't pitched since June 3rd, and I think it's important to note that the reason he was on the IL had nothing to do with his arm or shoulder. It was a groin injury, and it's been a groin injury for him. He was also shelved back in the middle of May He had to miss a couple of starts. So the groin has been an ongoing thing, but apparently they feel that it is healed. It's ready to go. So it's not an arm injury, and he's got one of the most electric arms there is. The only question I have is, what are you going to get from him for a dude who hasn't pitched since June 3rd, Donnie? Yeah. So he may not, he may leave a couple of those 100-mile-an-hour fastballs over the plate. And I can't think of a better team to take advantage than the Phillies here, looking to bounce back at plus money. Yeah, I'll take the Phillies in this spot.
I'll tell you what's interesting, too, about the Phillies is you saw game number 1 versus the Reds show. They didn't do anything until the top of the 8th inning with 2 outs. They won that game. Yesterday, they were equally as bad throughout the entire game and didn't score their 1 run till late. So sort of in that little bit of a funk where you're going to need Sanchez. I look at that 8.5 and find it interesting because one thing we know about Christopher Sanchez, look at his numbers this past 60 days, Joe. A 63 xFIP minus, an ERA of 1.63, an xFIP of 2.54. I think he can hold the bats down for the Cincinnati Reds. If you get anything out of Hunter Green, maybe looking at that game as 8.5, which means it takes 9 runs to beat you in this one. I don't think the Reds are going to beat up Sanchez like they did yesterday to Ranger Suarez, who's leaking oil right now for the Phillies. And Hunter Green might be able to give you like 4 strong innings, and the Phillies have been notoriously slow starters on this road trip. Maybe that does continue to say. But the 3 games we looked at today, heavy favorite for Milwaukee, heavy favorite for the Dodgers, and Christopher Sanchez, one of the better pitchers in baseball, a not so heavy favorite in that aspect of it. So a lot of things are going to go a long way. And the Reds, they need this win, Joe. As much as the Phillies do, they want to try to track down the New York Mets for that final wild card spot.
They have to keep winning. And again, you got your ace on the mound here coming off the IL. So it's they're going to be hopped up and ready to go for this one. And listen, you mentioned Suarez, lefty last night, lefty again here today. Let's see if Cincinnati can keep it up.
I'll tell you what can have happened. The Cubs lose another game and the Brewers win another game. So we're going to lead right into it in the next segment here. The Chicago Cubs and the Toronto Blue Jays. What's up with the Cubs, man? PCA, where are you? Goodness.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
The Yankees have an 80.7% chance of still making the playoffs. That just tells you that parity is alive and well in Major League Baseball, where mediocre teams can still make the playoffs, and the Yankees are mediocre but have above mediocre talent. So if they can put it together, you still got an 80% chance of playing postseason baseball.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
I was that confused trying to figure out why Cameron Young isn't as good as he should be, because we've seen all the flashes. Like at some point of his career, he's been elite at something. Like he's been elite at putting this year. He's been an elite iron player. He's been an elite driver of the golf ball. So check out this chart I had to get.
We got a chart.
Look at this chart that I had to come up with.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
An HRR, parlay a combo that you want to do. I generally prefer away teams and players that hit at the top of the lineup or in the top half, just because you are guaranteed just that extra plate appearance here or there. How many times, throughout the season, I've been like, listen, if this guy gets on, he will have one more at bat in the 9th inning. And if he doesn't get there, he doesn't get there. If you just take them that's placed higher, they're going to be in a spot to cash that back.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, Wrigleyville is down bad, Joe Ranieri. I mean, this looked like one of those seasons where you're going to tell your kids that they won that World Series and how much it was fun to raise that W and drink beers out there at Wrigley Field and walk around Sheffield and Waveland Avenue. What had happened here? My goodness. Well, the Chicago Cubs are going to take on the Toronto Blue Jays today. The Brewers can't stop winning and the Cubs can't stop losing, which means you might have to get the binoculars out for Cubs fans to even try to track down the Milwaukee Brewers. Horton will be on the mound today going up against Gausman, 977, 978 on the rotation. 707 start, minus 135s out here at most sports books if you're looking for the favorite here, which is the Toronto Blue Jays. A total of 8.5. Toronto wins yesterday. Does Toronto win again today? And Cubs, where's that offense, man? It used to be hot. Now it's not.
Well, that was our bye play yesterday. And I said, listen, current form, I will take this Toronto lineup over this Cubs lineup any time, because if you've been paying attention to Cubs right now, my goodness, they left a whole lot of dudes in scoring position and on base again yesterday. They had opportunities against Berrios and couldn't cash in. But the Blue Jays, big hits when they need them. They love playing at home. They're a different team at home. And now you've got Gausman, kind of an up and down season so far for him. But he's been really good as of late here. I think he's got 3 or earned runs or fewer in his last, 7 out of 8 outings. So he seems to have figured it out, better at home. There is no reason to look to fade Toronto in this spot going up against Cade Horton. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm back in Toronto again in this one.
By the way, in Toronto and Canada, there's only 2 restaurants. Is it Pizza, and Tim Hortons, and then everything else? Do I get that correct?
Yeah, I believe that's correct. And then there's Cam Stewart's place. By the way, and that's it.
Have you ever been to Canada, Joe? I've never been to Canada. Have you been there before?
I have, in fact. Yes, Toronto. Very nice.
Did you ever Did you ever see Pizza, by the way, or Tim Hortons up there?
No, because I left from New York to get into Toronto. You don't leave New York to go to Toronto to eat pizza. That's not how that works, Donnie.
Maybe a little Sbarro, best pizza you can find anywhere in the world, man. Fantastic stuff. New York's #1 pizza spot here. Let's get to the next game on the docket, and that's the Boston Red Sox and the Houston Astros. Boy, we built that up yesterday as this is going to be a really good game, and no, it wasn't. Like, Boston absolutely laid waste to Houston, and now Houston is tied with the Seattle Mariners in their own division. But Boston looking to track down a playoff spot. Walker Buehler is on the mound. For me, the worst pitcher on the card over the past 60 days, if we include analytical numbers like xFIP minus here, going up against Hunter Brown, who had that little late July swoon. No more. He's back into form. And you take a look at that price point here for Hunter Brown and the Astros, Joe, minus 175 or so, and a total that's listed at 8. Big bounce back spot here for the Astros. They need it. Walker Buehler, can he show up? Like, May wasn't supposed to have a great performance yesterday. He was really good. Can Buehler do the same?
Listen, fool me once. I'll give it to you. Walker Buehler, you and I had him against the Padres last time out, and we're going, he's going to absolutely get lit. Yeah, no, and he goes out there and he's absolutely dominating. But again, he's still got a 6.52 ERA on the road here. And you got to go up against Hunter Brown, who has been, one of the best pitchers in Astros history. He's got 160 strikeouts already on the season. He's got a 2.51 ERA. He's got 23 starts that he's been absolutely dominant in. I say he's going to be dominant again in this one. Big edge to the Astros, and I think early as well. So I'm going to fade Buehler again early because I think the pitching matchup is a big advantage for Houston. I'll lay the half a run. I'll back the Astros in the first 5.
Yeah, I think the Astros only got 1 yesterday, which is, hey, you got to bounce back. You got to go somewhere. And again, Walker Buehler's a guy that you should be able to touch up. We'll see what happens tonight in a big game down in Houston. Let's go over to New York City, and we'll head back to Yankee Stadium in the boogie down Bronx. Joe Ryan going to take on Cam Schlittler in this game. 965, 966 on the rotation, 705 start, minus 120 overnight as a favorite towards the Yankees. That number has disappeared, Joe. 146 at FanDuel, 157 at DraftKings, 150 at BetMGM, 155 at Bet365, and a total of 8.5. Ryan versus Schlittler here. The Yankees offense, in basically a bullpen day for Minnesota, showed up in the way they needed to. Home, big guys taking advantage of it. Can they do the same? Because Joe Ryan, not the same pitchers that you saw yesterday from the Twins.
Yeah, no, not. And he's had it. I think he's 2-2 with just under a 4 ERA and 4 career starts against the Yankees. The Yankees have the rookie going for them again. He's actually been pretty gutsy and had a really good outing. Unfortunately, didn't work out for him against the Astros last time out. But I definitely think the bats are starting to turn it around for the Yankees here. You mentioned the line movement in the full game market, Donnie. I can tell you the same thing in the first 5 market. As the Yankees opened up as a slight favorite in that one, -120. I'm seeing -135, -140. So we've got an even bigger move in the first 5 market, and that's where I'm going to go here because I think Yankees get all over Joe Ryan in this one.
Yeah, Joe Ryan's last 60 days, very good in Major League Baseball. Of course, he's a good pitcher. 78 xFIP minus number, 258 ERA, 326 xFIP number. You're just seeing what you're going to get out of Cam Schlittler today. Again, not a great offensive team in the Minnesota Twins. Yes, they got Byron Buxton back, but when you're relying on Cody Clemens as your power guy in the middle of the lineup, tells you a lot about the organization that basically sold everything at the deadline. Last night, Joe, you did have a lot of interesting scores. Like, who would have thought that you would add Colorado? Like, Kyle Freeland was one of my lowest rated pitchers yesterday. Guy might have turned into Cy Young. The night before that in that series, you had Miles Michaelis, who's a terrible pitcher. He looked like Cy Young in that performance. So you always never know what you get on a day-to-day basis, but a full Major League Baseball card on a Tuesday, love to see it. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games starting in the 2 o'clock Eastern hour, another game at 3:45. Then the night slate starts at 5:10 with the Philadelphia Phillies and the Cincinnati Reds. We got some good stuff to get to today. Thank you, baseball, for a nice slate here. Huh? How about that? Yeah.
I love it. Getaway day for some of these teams on long road trips like the Boston Red Sox. So just saying, keep an eye. Some of these spots call for a bet.
Wednesday, hump day. You got Gilbert on the mound going up against Baltimore and Rogers. You know Rogers. We talk about this guy like, come on, man, that guy's just a scrap-heap guy. It looks like Cy Young half the time this season for Baltimore. We'll see how that plays out here, but much more to talk about, including some best bets next as we close it down on the early line.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
What would you tell the people right now, though? Like, okay, I like the Rams ending into the season, but I'm not sure about Matthew Stafford because people want to get their bets in. People want their team totals. People want to bet week number 1 here. So what's your prognosis on the Rams? We'll talk long-term in a second. Week number 1, are we just going to say, like, yeah, he's ready. Bullets are flying. He looks great out there because he is a tough dude. But again, a back injury for a quarterback trying to get all that torque on passes, usually not good.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Joey Ohtani's only seen him 7 times, 7 at-bats. He's got a home run against him. I've been pretty good at jumping in and out with Ohtani. I don't take him to hit a home run every day. The odds are good enough tonight, Scott, at plus 230 to entice me. I've got a bet on Ohtani's season home run prop at 43.5, which, he's nearly there.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
He was the first of the wide receiver selected. For some reason, he didn't get the same kind of publicity some other guys in the past have gotten, but I don't get it because I look at the scenario, I look at the talent, and I say he's everything you're going to want here. In PPR leagues, I think he's going to approach 100 catches this year as a rookie, and that's going to blow people's minds, but I think he's going to be that good.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
What a fun show it's been here on the early line for a Hump Day Wednesday. People are getting paid here, and that includes Dalvin Cook's 4 years, $48 million deal. He's going to be happy to suit up and run some plays here for the Buffalo Bills, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Cleveland Browns. Joint practices, Joe, as they get ready for their action on the field coming up in week number 2 of the preseason. We took a look at some buy or sell angles here from the AFC North, which included Shedeur Sanders, should he play more games than anybody else in that quarterback room, and a lot of fun to be had by all. But I always like this too, because we're going to give out some best bets in just a few moments. But it's like we are the table setters, Joe. Like, we're not the closer. Like, we're like the opener that comes in and blows away the other team, 1, 2, 3 outs to get that game started off in the right direction. Like, holding it down for the SportsGrid network, lining up the regular season, as we like to say, which would be our SportsGrid day. And away we go. We're the openers, Joe.
We are the openers, Donnie. And that, listen, this is what sets the tone for the rest of the day, right? We are absolutely a great place to get all your information, plus get in a couple of early bets in the day when the markets are at their lowest.
By the way, if you do go to the SportsGrid app and download it here, you should only be downloading me as your favorite host, not Joe Ranieri, not Kevin Walsh, not Gabe, not Cam Stewart, none of those guys. Just me there. Make sure I lead that poll. It's very important here to my future in the SportsGrid business here. But as we do it, best bets are on the way. Bye, bye, bye. You remember that, say, like, Friday night, just got paid. But it's only Wednesday. But you can still get paid on a Wednesday, Joe. Where are you going today? Come on now.
Why not? We'll look to follow up last night's best bet on the Toronto Blue Jays. And we are going to go out west here for a little late game tonight, Donnie. And I'm going to back the disappointing Tampa Bay Rays, who ended up, they've split the first couple of games here against these Athletics in Sacramento, but they got blanked last night against Lopez and only mustered, I think, 4 hits on the night. But they have a big pitching advantage early in this game tonight with Rasmussen on the mound, who I don't believe has given up a run in quite some time here. He was part of a no decision last time out, but this guy doesn't walk anybody. He keeps the ball on the ground. He strikes out a lot of guys. I think this is a big advantage for Tampa Bay early in this one, because I do think they are going to bounce back from being shut out and only getting 4 hits last night. I think Tampa Bay in the first 5 at -120. I think that's a bargain with Rasmussen on the mound. Again, he hasn't given up a run here, Donnie. Doesn't walk a ton of guys. Don't think the Athletics are going to have that much success against him in this one.
Let's see what happens in that game. And, of course, I'm going to go over, I don't like the New York Mets, Joe, but see, this is where we sort of have that cutting edge, right? Hey, Donnie only bets the Phillies every day on the show. No, he doesn't. I'm going with the New York Mets. I think they absolutely pulverize Carlos Carrasco today. Not a lot of innings for Carrasco over the past 6 days. Why? He shouldn't be in Major League Baseball, Joe. His last 11 2/3 innings pitched, a 7 ERA and a 5.65 xFIP number. The Mets brought out the bats last night against Spencer Strider. They're bringing out the bats against Carrasco today. And I'm willing to say they're going to get a 6-pack today, Joe, and that's a plus money price at a +112 here. The New York Mets, maybe a polar bear home run to extend that lead over Darryl Strawberry. But I think the Mets absolutely hammer Carlos Carrasco and the dead Atlanta Braves. How do you like that?
I love that. And in that same fashion, if I am backing the Mets team total, I should probably back the Milwaukee Brewers over 4.5 as well, Donnie. I mean, I just saying team total seems like the way to go here today.
Absolutely, it does. And by the way, Aaron Rodgers, like we talk about him in the news. We talked about the Steelers, the buy yourself. They have a winning record. He's going to factor into that. But you know what Aaron Rodgers isn't happy with here? Well, not that he's getting to be an older man, but he doesn't like his helmet. He says it looks like a spaceship on his head, which I got to agree. It does look kind of spacey on his head there.
Yeah, he honestly sounds like the old guy yelling at the clouds right now, Donnie. It really does, because the helmet that he wore for 20 years has apparently didn't pass inspection this year for safety protocols. So he's kind of bent out of shape right now. But the helmet is kind of funky looking, isn't it?
I get a kick out of that. Like, hey, buddy, here's a helmet that's probably going to save the last 15 years of your life where you don't have to, like, have no idea who anybody is. You know what? I like the old helmet better. And he still wears that chin strap where anybody that plants a helmet on your chin is going to break your jaw. It's amazing that people don't wear the padded chin straps here when they just like to wear the old stuff here. But hey, football players are football players, sometimes Neanderthal thinking. That'll do it for the show today. For the early line, Donnie Rightside and Joe Ranieri. The best part about it, we'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning.